Yeah, acting was not my first love. Singing was my first love. Acting was my second love. And it all came together when I moved to Los Angeles.
Well, we're moving on now. We're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. We're moving on up to the east side. We finally got a piece of the pie. Fish don't fry in the kitchen.
Well, I saw Florence as my aunt and my grandmother. That's how they were, and how a lot of black women were in the community. Everybody in church knew of Florence. They knew somebody that took over and somebody that would tell your kids to shut up and sit down. So if you didn't do it, they did it for you and dared you to say anything. So everybody knew who Florence was. All colors knew who she was. When they hear her, they recognize her. That's somebody that they know. And so I just let them come out.
Mrs. Jefferson, I'm Florence Johnson, the agency secretary.
Oh, yes, come in.
I had been trying to get an audition in that office for the longest, and a couple of times I was in there, it was just like I wasn't there. She talked to everybody but me. But that particular day, my agent, who was Ernestine McClendon, a black agent, had wrote a letter, an open letter to Hollywood Reporter complaining that her people could never be seen. And so all of a sudden, there was some controversy. Everybody was trying to see her people. So when I went for an audition, I didn't know all that. But now they're paying attention to me. And so the part was, of course, it was the right time and the right part. And it reminded me of my aunt and my grandmother, and I just did it the way they would have done it. And it was like phenomenal to me. To them, it wasn't to me. It was natural to me. But they were so excited. And, you never really see things the way other people do. I didn't think it was that big. And by the time I got home, I had the part.
Do you folks mind if I ask you something?
No, go right ahead.
You live in this apartment, right?
Uh-huh.
And you got an apartment in this building, too?
Yes, that's right.
Well, how come we overcame and nobody told me?
And it was just a one-time thing. I wasn't supposed to be regular. That was just for that one show. But I got such a laugh on how come we overcame and nobody told me that they ended up writing something else for me 5 weeks later. And then they wrote something else for me. And then the next season, they offered me a role. But the other lady was supposed to get the part. But you never know. Well, I chose to come when I was running away from a husband. And I had already started the family. I had all 3 children. And my sister happened to be in Los Angeles, and that's why I went to Los Angeles.
I've always thought that the church could be a real power in the community, a force for change.
Yes, Beverly's always been real big in community work, helping at the daycare center and working for Senator Sills, you know.
Broke into community theater, yeah. PASLA, which was Performing Arts Society of Los Angeles, and Tatanisha was in room 222 then. And so that's the workshop she came out of. So we were very happy to be in that workshop in Watts. And then we went to Mafundi, which was also in Watts. And from there, I went to the Zodiac Theater, which was in Hollywood, because Margaret Avery, who you might remember from The Color Purple, that was her workshop. And that was a professional workshop. And while I was at that workshop doing plays, the audition for the Jeffersons came up.
Florence, what are you talking about?
I mean, this dude is a good likeness, and he's handsome and all that, but he can't fool Billy D. Williams' #1 fan.
Are you really my #1 fan?
No, I'm Billy D. Williams' #1 fan, and I know a phony when I see one.
Crossroads Arts Academy, which was the name of our facility. And we did 2 or 3 plays and got nice credits. And then when we opened our own workshop, we had Ed Cambridge, who was well-known director of theater, and he came over and gave classes. So we were very happy to hear him. Bea Richards came over and did some seminars for us. And it was just wonderful. Denzel Washington came over and did the play, Checkmates. And then they went to Broadway. After that, we did 227, and Ed Cambridge and my daughter decided they would like to ask me to do the part. So we did, and then my daughter encouraged me to get the rights for it from Christine Houston, which I did. And we ended up doing the play, and it kept running. It was so popular that we had to shut it down, do the children's play that we had promised, and then bring it back up again. And in that time, Brandon Tartikoff, who was the president of NBC, came with Scoey Mitchell, and Universal came, and CBS came, and Norman Lear on the last day, the day before the last day, said, I heard you have a good play over there. I said, I do. He said, well, I want to come see it. I said, well, you better come tomorrow because we're closing. So he said, well, call my office. So I did, and he and his wife came. Then he asked me what was I doing with it, and I told him I was talking to Universal. He said, have you signed anything? I said, no. He said, why don't you and I do it? So I went with Norman, and I told him that NBC wanted to do it. Well, the Jeffersons was on CBS, so he said, we have to show it to CBS first because we're already with them. So I said, well, okay. So he said, would you put the play back up? I said, if you pay for it. So he said, okay. So we put the play back up, and he invited all of them. And Brandon Tartikoff was still interested. So we did it with NBC.
Well, there ought to be some way we can raise the money.
Yeah, there's got to be a way.
Okay, what is it? We're waiting.
A sidewalk sale.
Well, it's good to get investors. You got to have the right investors. First of all, you have to have the faith, and you have to believe in yourself. We have to understand we are one with God. We are God. That's where God has his living and being in us. And that's what Jesus came to tell us, that we and the Father are one. The things that he did, we can do also even greater. And that's what he came to tell us, but nobody remembers that. We keep God way over there, outside of us, and all answers come from within. So when we believe something and we state that and have the faith in it and keep doing the work, it will manifest itself into reality. The problem is we say one thing and do another. We might say those things, but then we start looking around for across the street. They got the money, so we're going over there. We can manifest the money from the universe. We have to believe these things. That's what I was telling a young man a few minutes ago. He and God are one, so once we decide, you put in the universe what it is you want, and then you step out on the promise. You make one step, the universe will make two. But you can't decide exactly when it's going to happen. The problem is we're impatient. You know, you hear some people say, I've worked on this for 7 years, but they never gave up. And it finally came to pass. And when it came to pass, it was the right time. When they wanted to do it, it was not the right time. That's what we don't understand. There are no mistakes in the universe. You are where you are supposed to be at the time you are there because there's some information you need in order to go on to the next step. And so everything is a lesson. So as you're meeting people, they're bringing you information that's coming from the universe. You just don't realize it. And once you have all the pieces together, then you can make the next move.
Billy D. Williams, Miss Jefferson, the real Billy D. Williams.
I'm afraid so, yes.
Well, now that we got that all settled, let's get going before we're getting late.
Wait, you can't take him now. Wait a minute, Billy. I'm going to put on my blue dress. I'll be right back.
I was 43 when I started. I'm 30 now, I said. It took me a long time to understand that I was manifesting these things myself. People say, I don't know how it happened. It's just all of a sudden this happened. But, you know, these are things that you put in the universe that the universe responds to.
Thank you for being my #1 fan.
I'm kind of letting God handle it. He's doing a great job. So I'm putting in the universe and letting it come.